Many thanks for tuning in to yet another fresh package of your regular program, Oil and Gas Forum. My name is Binta Magaji, standing in for your regular anchor. It has been a very busy week for the NNPC leadership. The company has been rallying and marketing its services in a bid to secure a viable space in the ever-dynamic global oil and gas market. From Angola and now South Korea, it's all about energy security, transition and continental collaboration, aiming at massive gas production and export. Just as more investment in gas transport infrastructure is realized through the launch of new vessels by the NNPC. Curbing product diversion is also a major feature in the program this week, where major marketers and other stakeholders in the downstream sector have been recently engaged. The NNPC Limited makes yet another first, this time around setting a 30-year record on environmental audit, even as the federal government rallies midstream and downstream refining capacity. Please stay tuned as we take you through the details of these landmark events coming up shortly.
The NNPC Limited and its partner Sahara Group have taken delivery of two 23,000 cubic meters liquefied petroleum gas LPG vessels for their joint venture company WAGL Energy Limited. The event, which held at the Hyundai Mipo shipyard in Ulsan, South Korea, also witnessed the official naming of the vessels as MT Sapit and MT Baru MK. Speaking at the occasion, the GMD CEO of the NNPC Limited, Malam Melekiari, said investments in the LPG carriers was part of efforts to deepen domestic gas utilization in keeping with the federal government's aspiration to use gas as the linchpin to drive the nation's economic and industrial growth. He disclosed that an order for 3 additional new vessels is at an advanced stage, adding that, quote, "We have a target of delivering 10 vessels over the next 10 years." End of quote. On his part, the executive director of Sahara Group, Mr. Temitokbe Shonubi, said WAGL has successfully operated 2 mid-sized LPG carriers, MT Africa Gas and MT Sahara Gas, in the region in keeping with global standards, delivering over 6 million CBM of LPG across West Africa. Quote, "With the 2 new vessels, we are set to promote and lead Africa's march towards energy transition." End of quote. The 2 new vessels, MT Sapit and MT Baru MK, are expected to sail out in June and September 2022 and will increase WAGL's total fleet to 4. All 4 vessels were built by Hyundai Mipo Dockyard, a foremost global manufacturer of mid-sized carriers. WAGL Energy Limited is a joint venture company between NNPC and Ocean Bed, a Sahara Group company, which is driving NNPC's 5-year $1 billion investment plan announced in 2021 to accelerate the decade of gas and energy transition agenda. Also at the event were the Ambassador of Nigeria to South Korea, His Excellency Aliyu Magashi, the wives of late Dr. M.K. Baru, Mrs. Adayo Mekanti Baru, and Mrs. Hadja Mekanti Baru, NNPC Group Executive Director, Gas and Power, Mr. Mohammed Ahmed, and Group Executive Director Upstream, Engineer Adokie Tombumie, and other dignitaries. The MT Baru MK has been named after the late Group Managing Director of the NNPC, Dr. Mekanti Kachala Baru, who served from 2016 to 2019 as the GMD.
We're glad that in line with the sustainability focus of the NNPC to gas, that his legacy would live with what he has interest in. This ship was named after our dad. We're very happy, everyone in the house is very happy, and we're very grateful that his legacy has lived on.
In a related development, the GMD CEO of NNPC Limited, Malam Melekiari, has called on oil and gas companies operating in Nigeria to invest more in gas transportation in order to boost the nation's gas exports to the global market. Kiari made the call at an ceremony between Hyundai Mipo Dockyard Company Limited, Tamil Development Company, and NLNG Ship Management Limited, NSML, for the construction of a 23,000 M3 LPG NH3 VCM carrier and the supervision of the ship construction work on the sidelines of the 28th World Gas Conference 2022, Daegu, South Korea. He said it has become imperative for Nigeria to develop more channels for getting gas into the international gas market, considering the pivotal role gas has assumed in the global march towards cleaner energy sources. According to him, there is need for Nigeria to take advantage of the global acceptance of gas as a transition fuel by massive investment in gas transport infrastructure. Kyari stated that the company expects to see more and more Nigerians coming forward to build the transportation medium for gas and other liquids that the company handles. Also speaking at the event, the Executive Secretary, Nigerian Content Development Monitoring Board, Engineer Simbi Wabute, commended the project partners for their various activities in Nigeria, which he said are in alignment with NCDMB's strategic objective of maximizing the potentials in the midstream and downstream sectors of the Nigerian oil and gas industry to actualize the decade of gas policy of the federal government. The event was attended by the chairman of the board of directors NNPC Limited, Mrs. Marjorie Chuba Okadigbo, and representatives of Hyundai, NSML, and Temil Development Company. The NNPC Limited has called on investors to increase the funding of gas development projects in order to guarantee a smooth global energy transition. The Group Managing Director and Chief Executive Officer of NNPC Limited, Malamele Kyari, made a call at the 28th World Gas Conference 2022, which held at Daegu, South Korea. Kyari, who spoke against the backdrop of stifling funding for new oil and gas projects due to environmental concerns, said, "In very many jurisdictions, gas is nearly always associated. So you have to turn the table to see if you can get non-associated gas so that banks and financial institutions can put their money into it."
The world has accepted that gas is the cleaner fuel, no doubt about it. And beyond this probably is the most basic and most acceptable transition fuel that we have. And that means that opportunities are there for technology, for investment, also for adding supply so that we can curtail those issues around the energy deficiency and energy poverty that we see across the globe at different phases, in different circumstances. And of course, obviously, the approaches cannot be the same all over the world.
Kyari, who spoke against the backdrop of stifling funding for new oil and gas projects due to environmental concerns, said, "In very many jurisdictions, gas is nearly always associated. So you have to turn the table to see if you can get non-associated gas so that banks and financial institutions can put their money into it." Kyari said the NNPC Limited is not averse to the push for carbon neutrality, adding that funding gas projects is a vital decision to be made to avert future crises. It will be recalled that at the recently held 26th Conference of Parties, COP26 in Glasgow 2021, African countries had advocated for energy justice in the push for transition to cleaner fuels.
We are in a situation in which increasingly, without the intervention of NNPC, we would struggle as a country.
Determined to sustain energy security for the country, NNPC Limited has engaged major marketers of petroleum products in the nation's downstream sector, including the Major Oil Marketers Association of Nigeria, MOMAN, the Depot and Petroleum Products Marketers Association of Nigeria, DAPMAN, and independent marketers on the need to curb product diversion. Speaking at a meeting with the marketers at the NNPC Towers Abuja, the Group Executive Director Downstream, who was represented by the Managing Director, Petroleum Products Marketing Company PPMC, Mr. Isiaku Abdullahi, said NNPC, as the sole importer of petroleum products, was in a critical situation that required the solid cooperation of the marketers to sustain product availability to Nigerians and reduce burden of high evacuation costs on government in terms of under-recovery. The PPMC MD said the company was concerned that in spite of the high truck out of premium motor spirit PMS from depots across the country, the market was still experiencing shortfalls, noting that diversions of products was likely the reason.
We noticed some abnormal evacuation around some border states. So we need to talk to our stakeholders, the MOMAN, the major marketers, the DAPMAN, the independents, so that we arrest that and not to come over or repeat the recent fuel queues that we noticed across the country.
He appealed to the marketers to activate the corporate social responsibility CSR component of their businesses to support both the federal government and the NNPC in sustaining energy security for Nigeria, stressing that such gesture will help in cushioning the effect of the current global energy crisis. On his part, the Executive Secretary of the Major Oil Marketers Association of Nigeria, MOMAN, Mr. Clement Isong, said that NNPC was playing a key role in keeping the country well supplied in terms of petroleum products, especially at a critical time like this when the world is facing serious inflation.
We are in a situation in which increasingly, without the intervention of NNPC, we would struggle as a country. So our role is to support them as much as possible to make sure that we get past this period.
Speaking in a similar vein, the Executive Secretary of the Depot and Petroleum Products Marketers Association of Nigeria, DAPMAN, Mr. Olufemi Adewale, expressed satisfaction with the outcome of the meeting, assuring that DAPMAN as a responsible organization was committed to ensuring efficient supply and distribution of petroleum products across the country.
Some of the challenges that marketers are facing have been identified, and as MD promised, those that could be escalated will be escalated. Those that have been due for resolution here have been resolved.
The Nigerian National Petroleum Company NNPC Limited has set record as the first exploration and production company to acquire environmental audit certification in the Federal Capital Territory, Abuja, since the Environmental Impact Assessment EIA law was established about 30 years ago. The attainment of this feat by the company was disclosed by the Permanent Secretary of the Federal Ministry of Environment, Engineer Hassan Musa, during the presentation of a Certificate of Environmental Audit to the NNPC at the NNPC Towers, Abuja. The Permanent Secretary, who was represented by the Director Environmental Assessment, Dr. Abbas Suleiman, commended the NNPC for its consistency and commitment to environmental global best practices.
The Foreign Ministry of Environment giving the first certificate to NNPC. So coming here again to give an audit certificate, and I think this is the first audit certificate that we are giving publicly to a building in the Federal Capital City. So that's another first, and kudos to NNPC.
Speaking at the event, the Group Executive Director of Corporate Services, Mrs. Aisha Katagum, who was represented by the Group General Manager Human Resources, Mr. Yunusa Yahaya, appreciated the Federal Ministry of Environment for the honor of implementing the audit process and the award of the certification to NNPC, especially at this crucial stage of the company's transition from a corporation to a limited liability company.
This event is very significant for us as a company as we move forward into the PIA dispensation because, again, we are concerned about the well-being of our workforce and of our assets as an organization. What is more, compliance is key in the new dispensation we're entering, and we're not leaving anything behind with respect to ensuring that we comply fully to all the laws of the Federation.
Sonangol Group, the national oil company of Angola, Africa's second largest oil producer, has expressed desire to collaborate with NNPC Limited in the downstream sector reforms in Angola. This was disclosed by a delegation from Sonangol on a benchmarking visit to the NNPC to understudy the company's downstream operations and lay the foundation for new partnerships. Speaking at a brief welcome ceremony held for the delegation at the NNPC Towers, Abuja, the head of the delegation, a member of Sonangol's executive committee in charge of distributions, Ana Paula Maranjal Mesquita do Carmo, said that the delegates were in Nigeria to understudy NNPC's downstream logistics and mechanisms of sales and distribution of petroleum products. According to her, Angola is in transition from a monopolistic market to a competitive market, and Sonangol needs to learn from an established and functional system like NNPC. Speaking earlier, the GMD CEO of NNPC Limited, who was represented by the Chief Financial Officer, Mr. Umar Ajia, welcomed the guests as partners, adding that NNPC is committed to working with African countries to add value to their hydrocarbon value chain and create energy security for the continent. He assured them that NNPC is happy to share its experience with the group, stressing that the visit is timely as NNPC is currently transiting to a limited liability company with its business processes changing to become more commercially focused and efficient.
We have shared with them our learning points, pitfalls where they should not fall into, and that will help their country going forward.
In a presentation to the delegation, the Group Executive Director Downstream, who was represented by the Managing Director PPMC, Mr. Ishaku Abdullahi, took them through the gamut of NNPC's downstream operations with special focus on NNPC retail and its business model. He assured them that NNPC is willing to answer all their questions and avail them of any information relating to downstream operations. The Sonangol team was taken on a tour of a number of NNPC's downstream facilities in Abuja, Lagos, and Ogun State. To further strengthen local content development and boost the country's domestic refining capacity, the federal government has called for synergy among stakeholders in the midstream and downstream sectors of the oil and gas industry. The Minister of State for Petroleum Resources, Chief Chimipre Silva, made the call at the opening ceremony of a two-day dialogue organized by the Nigerian Content Development and Monitoring Board, NCDMB, in Lagos, with the theme Maximizing Potentials in the Midstream and Downstream Oil and Gas Sector, a Local Content Perspective. According to the minister, one of the key objectives of the Ministry of Petroleum Resources under the next level agenda of the President Muhammadu Buhari administration is to increase the nation's domestic refinery capacity. He noted that government efforts at boosting domestic refining capacity led to NCDMB's partnership with local companies such as Walter Smith Refinery, Azikel Refinery, and Atlantic Refinery in furtherance of its role as a catalyst for capacity development in the Nigerian oil and gas industry and its linkage sectors.
It will serve as a platform to sensitize and enlighten stakeholders about the board's capacity building intervention initiatives in support of Nigerian content development in the mid and downstream sectors.
Good evening and welcome to the feedback segment of the program. I am Abigail Ojobo. On June 7th, 2019, the World Liquefied Petroleum Gas LPG Association launched the Maiden LPG Day with the aim to awake media and industries to the importance of the use of LPG as alternative fuel. LPG can be identified as an exceptional energy source as it is a clean and versatile fuel. LPG is also known as cooking gas and ideal for use in many domestic activities. On the segment today, we bring to the front burner the importance of using LPG.
LPG is a cleaner source of energy. A lot of people die from polluted energy by using particulate fuel like kerosene, coal, and firewood. That one is immediately eradicated when you use LPG because LPG does not produce most of those oxides of nitrogen and sulfur that are very dangerous to the health.
The usual gas a common man will know is that for cooking with our canisters or our cylinders as they may call it. But using gas for cars and other things, or maybe we end up having gas generators or gas listers and all of that, it's not really out there. You ask a layman, do you know we can use gas for cars? He'll tell you gas. I only know of diesel and know of petrol, but I don't know of gas. So there's more that needs to be done. More awareness and sensitization needs to be carried out to ensure that Nigerians know that, okay, if they cannot get hold of petrol or fuel, they can also have alternative to gas.
LPG helps us to reduce deforestation and it also improved the health of our people. And for people who use it for power, for generator, and for other means of energy source, it means less reliance on the heavy fuel, diesel and petrol. So it's a far cleaner form of energy than the regular, hydrocarbon that are very pollutant in nature.
Interesting. The many advantages of LPG are beneficial for any company interested in maximizing profits while minimizing the cost of production. LPG is convenient, safe, reliable and efficient. Moreover, it offers solutions to all the industries that need better fuel for their operations. LPG can raise the quality of life while guaranteeing benefits for the environment as well. Please stay tuned for the rest of the program.
Good to have you join us on this segment. My name is Faith Olatubosun. Today, we shall be enlightening you on dangers inherent in improper handling of gas cylinders, which serve as a safety measure to comply with. Did you know that it is dangerous to leave gas cylinders in a vehicle parked for over an hour? Did you also know that vehicle boots are not safe to transport gas cylinders as they do not have adequate ventilation? Did you know that keeping a gas cylinder on its side applies pressure on its valve and could lead to damage over time? Did you know that when transporting filled gas cylinders, it is important that you keep your vehicle windows open for adequate ventilation? All gas cylinders should be transported in a secure upright position to avoid leakage and damage of any sort to accessories. Gas cylinders should be taken out of the vehicle as soon as you arrive your destination to avoid the risk of overheating and subsequent explosion. Now you know. Please don't go anywhere. The rest of the program continues.
Hello and nice to have you on Global Crude Oil Outlook. Oil prices climbed above $120 a barrel on Monday, hitting their highest in more than 2 months, as traders waited to see whether the European Union would reach an agreement on banning Russian oil imports. Brent crude futures contract for July was up 69 cents or 0.6% at $120.12 a barrel on Tuesday. The August Brent contract, which is more active, rose 85 cents or 0.7% to $116.41 a barrel. U.S. West Texas Intermediate WTI crude futures jumped 74 cents or 0.6% to $115.81 a barrel, extending solid gains made last week. EU Russian oil import ban is still a work in progress, and if it gets over the line this week, expect supplies to tighten again, said Jeffrey Harley, a senior market analyst at Owanda. The Market Intelligence Department of the NNPC's London office reported that the EU governments failed to agree on an embargo on Russian oil on Sunday, but will continue talks on a deal to ban seaborne deliveries while allowing deliveries by pipeline, officials said. Any further ban on Russian oil will tighten a crude market already strained for supply amid rising demand for gasoline, diesel and jet fuel ahead of the peak summer demand season in the United States and Europe. Underscoring market tightness, the Organization of the Petroleum Exporting Countries and Allies, including Russia, a group dubbed OPEC+, are set to rebuff Western calls to speed up increases in output when they meet on Thursday. They will stick to existing plans to raise their July output target by 432,000 barrels per day, 6 OPEC Plus sources said. That's it on this segment of the program. I am Owigo Okolo.
Thank you for sharing your half hour with us. Hearty congratulations to our presenter Abigail Ojobo, who got married to Dr. Larry Mordecai on May 28, 2022. Happy married life to the couple. Enjoy the rest of the week.